The boy stood at our gate, looked directly at my husband, and said, "Sir, I think I am your son." My husband laughed at first. Then the boy showed us a small hospital bracelet with his name on it. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel for more emotional African folktales based on realistic events. Now, let's begin. My name is Grace, and what happened to my family is something I will never forget. 15 years ago, my husband, Daniel, and I had our first child. We were very happy. Daniel had a good job with a building company, and I was a primary school teacher. We were not extremely rich, but we were comfortable. Our baby boy was born at a private hospital in our town. We named him Samuel. I remember holding him for the first time. He was small and healthy. I kept looking at his face. I did not want to sleep. I just wanted to hold him. But something terrible happened 2 days later. Samuel disappeared. I had been sleeping when a nurse entered the room and said she needed to take him for a routine check. I was tired, so I allowed her to take him. About 30 minutes later, I woke up and asked for my baby. The nurse who had taken him was nowhere to be found. Another nurse came into the room. I asked her about Samuel. She looked confused. "What baby?" I thought she was joking. My son. The nurse took him for a check. The woman became worried. She called another nurse, then another. Within minutes, the hospital was in confusion. Samuel was missing. Daniel rushed to the hospital. He was furious. The police were called. The hospital searched every room. They checked the records. They checked the entrances. They questioned the staff. But Samuel was gone. There were no cameras covering the back entrance. The nurse who had taken him had also disappeared. Her name was not even on the hospital's official duty list. We spent months searching for our son. We went to police stations. We visited bus stations. We checked orphanages. We put his photograph everywhere. But nobody found him. After 2 years, people began telling us to accept that he might never return. I refused. Every night, I prayed that one day my son would walk through our door. Daniel tried to remain strong, but I knew he was suffering too. Years passed. Samuel would have been 5, then 10, then 15. We kept his room. His small clothes remained inside a box. I never threw them away. Then one rainy afternoon, someone knocked on our gate. I opened it. A teenage boy stood outside. He looked about 15 years old. He was thin and wore a simple shirt and trousers. He looked nervous. "Can I speak with Daniel?" he asked. I asked who he was. He looked at me. "My name is Samuel." I nearly dropped the cup in my hand. I stared at him. "What did you say, Samuel?" My heart started beating very fast. He looked at the house, then he looked back at me. "I think I am your son." I could not speak. Daniel came outside. When he saw the boy, he stopped. The boy looked at him carefully. Then he said, "Sir, I think you are my father." Daniel shook his head. "This is not possible." The boy reached into his pocket and brought out a small plastic bag. Inside was an old hospital bracelet. It had a name written on it, Baby Samuel Okafor. My hand started shaking. I took the bracelet. It was the same name, the same hospital, the same birth date. Daniel sat down. We immediately called the police. The boy was taken to the station. He told them that he had grown up with an older couple in another town. He called them Mama and Papa. They had always told him that they were his real parents. But 3 months earlier, the old man had died. The woman became very sick. Before she died, she gave Samuel the hospital bracelet and a small envelope. She told him, "Your real family is still looking for you." Samuel opened the envelope. Inside was a newspaper clipping from 15 years earlier. It contained a story about our missing baby. There was also an old photograph of me holding Samuel at the hospital. That was how he found us. But there was still one big question. Where had he been all those years? Samuel refused to answer. Every time the police asked him, he became quiet. Even when Daniel asked him, he would only say, "I don't want to talk about it." We agreed to do a DNA test. The result came back 2 weeks later. There was no mistake. Samuel was our son. I cried when I saw the result. I held him tightly. For the first time in 15 years, I was holding my baby again. But he did not cry. He simply stood there. I could feel that something was wrong. One evening, I asked him gently, "Samuel, what happened to you?" He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "I promised Mama I would never tell anyone." I asked who Mama was. He started crying. Finally, he explained, the woman who raised him had not stolen him herself. Her husband had worked at the hospital years earlier. He had been involved with people who illegally sold babies to families who could not have children. Samuel was one of the babies taken. The old couple had received him through someone they trusted. They knew he was not their biological child, but they raised him anyway. When Samuel's adoptive mother became sick, she decided to tell him. The truth, she gave him the bracelet and the envelope. She begged him to find us. But she also warned him that the people involved might still be dangerous. That was why Samuel was afraid to speak. The police reopened the old case. They discovered that several babies had disappeared from the same hospital during those years. Some hospital workers had already died. Others had moved away. One former worker was eventually arrested after investigators found old records connected to the missing children. Samuel's story helped the police understand what had happened, but for me, the most important thing was simple. My son was home. He had missed 15 years of his life with us. He did not know his favorite childhood food. He did not remember my voice. He did not know how Daniel used to carry him around the house. So we started again. I learned what music he liked. Daniel took him to football matches. We ate together. We talked. Sometimes Samuel was quiet. Sometimes he looked uncomfortable when we called him our son. I understood. Blood had brought him back to us. But love would take time. Today, Samuel is a young man. He still visits the grave of the woman who raised him. He says she made a terrible mistake by keeping the truth from him. But she also gave him a home when he had nowhere else to go. I do not hate her. I only wish she had told him the truth sooner. 15 years ago, I thought I had lost my son forever. Then one rainy afternoon, he stood at my gate. He did not come with expensive clothes or a big story. He came with an old hospital bracelet, and that little bracelet brought my child home. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more emotional African folktales based on realistic events. See you in the next story.